What's going on, y'all? You already know what it is. This is the Infinite Reps podcast. I'm your host, Trevor Stone. Today, we're dealing with some really powerful content here. This is called The Fearless Mind by Craig Manning, okay? Essential steps to higher performance, all right? So let's just get right into it. So just a little bit of background on Craig Manning, right? This book was published in 2009, okay? Craig Manning is a sports psychology consultant, okay? He has coached at BYU for their Division I tennis program, and he coached them to rank top 20 in the nation. He deals with high performance concepts and principles, okay? And I just want to jump right into it. He does a full chapter on confidence, okay? So a lot of what we talk about on the Infinite Reps podcast, a lot of the content or the books that we discuss, a lot of the content that that the authors put in their books that we like to go over, they overlap, okay? So a lot of the principles and theories, just coming from different voices, all pretty much the same thing, right? But again, we want to reinforce the subconscious mind, okay? That's what it's all about, is reinforcing your subconscious mind with positive information, okay? And doing what you will with that information, okay? Marcus Garvey says that intelligence rules the world and ignorance bears the burden, okay? Intelligence rules the world and ignorance bears the burden. So definitely get into some books like this. Let me turn on the brightness so you can see. Definitely get into into that powerful content. This is the Fearless Mind. So in the chapter on confidence, Craig Manning, he breaks down, right, that you can never have too much confidence, right? In fact, you actually want to store as much confidence as possible in order to face those tough situations when they do come about, okay? So no one can give us confidence, okay? According to Craig Manning, you have to go out and get it for yourself, right? And we'll break down real quick how he, how he teaches his athletes how to be confident, right? Because what happens is confidence is the single most distinguishing factor in high performance athletes, right? It's the difference between those who execute and those who don't, okay? It's all comes down to confidence, right? Keeping it very, very simple. And confidence, right, is a belief that one can rely on someone or something, okay? That's the definition of confidence. He actually cites, numerous studies in this book. This is really good. He goes into, stories about his players. He cites different research studies, but according to the study that he cited for this one, or the definition that he cited, confidence is a belief or feeling that one can rely on someone or something, okay? Self-confidence, right, is a feeling of trust in one's own abilities, qualities, and judgment, okay? So self-confidence is a belief, right, is basically being able to trust that you can rely on yourself, right? Trust that you can rely on your own abilities, your qualities, and your judgment. And you can build confidence, right? Everybody knows that you can build confidence. Let's get into how. So he tells a story in the chapter about confidence, about how he coaches his athletes, okay? And he says that during matches, he would basically have his players flood their minds with positive affirmations and positive thoughts, okay? The reason he did this is just so that no negative thoughts could take up any space in the brain. So if you're thinking one thing, you can't be thinking another, if that makes sense, okay? So he would have them go ahead and flood their minds with positive thoughts so that no negative thoughts can enter their brains while they're on the tennis court, right? And they would stay confident by always focusing on the task at hand and focus on those things that they can control, okay? And when it comes down to it, whether you're on a tennis court, whether you're on a basketball field, whether you're in your business, right, or just going about your day, There's two things that we can always control. That's our attitude and our effort. Okay? You can always control your attitude. And you can always control how much effort you're going to put in. A lot of things that we can't control, Craig Manning says not to even worry about that. Okay? He says don't even worry about the things that you can't control. Focus on the things that you can control. Focus on the task at hand. Okay? And the performance cues that are in your direct control. Right? So he would coach this way primarily because when you have self-defeating, right, or inappropriate thoughts, as he breaks them down, he says, when you have inappropriate thoughts, it leads to self-destructive behavior, okay? And the way that self-destructive behavior manifests itself on the tennis court is by losing the match, right? So when you're having inappropriate thoughts on the, on the court, that leads to losing, right? So you want to stay in a space of confidence by, again, drowning out all the negativity, but you have to have something to place in replacement of the negative thoughts, right? So a key thing to understand here is that he teaches that if a person is engaged in self-defeating behavior or self-defeating thought patterns, the only way to help them is to not sugarcoat things, okay? You can't sugarcoat it, right? There's no sympathy for negativity and, self-defeating thinking, basically, right? You can't have sympathy for the victim mindset, okay? Just another way to put it. There's no sympathy for the victim mindset. It's basically unacceptable. It's unacceptable depending on what paradigm you are operating from. If you're operating from a fearless mind, there's no sympathy for negativity. There's no sympathy for victimhood. Okay, so this is really some good stuff, right? It's a pretty long read, but it's great because he goes into really good depth about different stories. He gets in depth about different studies, but it's really cool to see how he coaches his players, right? He tells stories about how they're like basically hitting rock bottom, and he coaches them out of it. And it's really intuitive, right? It makes a lot of sense. But again, when we hear these stories, right, they resonate. Okay, they resonate, and then that way, once you have it in your mind, you can apply it to your own life. But the key is to actually go out and get the information, right? So again, this is The Fearless Mind by Craig Manning, right? This is published in 2009. Go out and get this one if you hear anything that kind of resonates with you, okay? Again, I know nothing. All I know is that I know nothing. That's why I read books, okay? So again, part of this podcast is, getting people to go out and take action. And part of taking action is not just watching a YouTube video. It's actually going out and, taking the first step, which is getting familiar with these theories. And then you can start to really apply these theories. But you're not going to just get it from watching a YouTube video, okay? Even though I do thank you guys for tuning in, right? So again, if this is your first time watching, right, subscribe. And also follow us at KillerTrev12 on Instagram. So Manning, he breaks down, there are 4 modes to build confidence, okay? 4 primary modes that build confidence, all right? The first one is through previous experiences, okay? We've all won in the past. We've all had a winning experience in the past. And what he says is, right, because a lot of this has to do with your subconscious mind, right? It's taking the negativity and drowning it out and feeding the beast that is the positive beast, right? Because you got 2 beasts. You got the positive one and you got the negative one, right? So you want to starve the negativity and you want to reinforce the positive. So you learn and reinforce what you have already done in the past. You learn and reinforce what you've already done in the past. Number 2, the way that you build confidence is that through vicarious experiences, okay? So you look at what other successful people have done and then you apply it to your own life. Very, very, very simple, right? Very simple. Again, it's just being put another way, right? A lot of people talk about this, when we talk about John C. Maxwell, he goes over a lot of these same concepts, but again, we just want to reinforce these concepts in different ways, okay? You also have verbal persuasion. What is verbal persuasion? Verbal persuasion is affirmations. Verbal persuasion is saying, I can do this, right? I'm good enough. I have all I need inside me to succeed, right? The brain is programmed, right? Your brain is a computer, and it's programmed by what we say to ourselves, how we communicate to ourselves. So again, going back to how he would coach his players, right? The way that he coaches his players, right, is that he has them drown out all the negativity. How so? How do you drown out negativity? You drown it with positivity. Okay, that's the only way you can do it. All right. It may seem like, kind of corny, but that's the way that you do it. You have to over and over again promote positive thinking. Okay. And number 4 is your physiological state. And the way he puts it is that in terms of your physiology, being able to control your body so that it functions in the way that you want it to builds confidence. So again, this is sports psychology. So again, he's dealing with high performance sports psychology, and this applies also to your business, right? Your personal life. It's about personal growth. Infinite reps is about the infinite expansion of the mind. Okay, so we use these principles to go ahead and make ourselves better and more effective in life. So I want to make this video quick, but I definitely want to get into some actionable steps that we can implement, right? Because this is really good stuff. This book is very, very good. Okay. So again, going back to what he has his athletes do, the way he coaches his athletes is through positive reinforcement, focusing on what you can control, okay, and reinforcing the positive aspects of which you are, of your actions, okay, of your execution, right? And when it comes down to it, you can, just like you can always find a negative, there's always plenty of positive to find. And what he does is he has his athletes set up what's called a mental skills performance journal, right? A mental skills journal, right? That they implement, right? And it's very, very simple, okay? He introduces a concept in his book. We'll just call it 3 to 1, okay? 3 to 1, right? So he says that you stimulate growth and confidence by reinforcing 3 things that you did well and 1 aspect that you can improve on, okay? You reinforce positive, actions that lead to confidence, and you build confidence by focus on 3 things that you did well and 1 thing that you can improve upon. And he has his athletes actually do this every day, okay? After practice or at the end of the day, whether they had a game, whether they had practice, he has them write down in a journal. He would stay on top of them too. That would be like one of the first things. Have you been using your journal? Have you been using your journal? If the athlete told him that they weren't using the journal, he's like, well, this is the first step. You got to use the journal and you got to follow the steps that I've laid out. And it's very, very easy. It's very, very simple. I've used this myself. And at the end of your day, you go ahead and write down 3 things you did well and 1 thing that you can improve upon. Now, I want to make an emphasis on the 1 thing that you can improve upon, because this is not saying 3 good and 1 bad. No, this is saying 3 good things you did well and 1 thing to improve upon. There is no negativity. There's nothing ever. When you flip that switch, when you flip the paradigm, there's nothing ever negative in life. It's all about how you see it, right? You can always control what? 2 things: your attitude, how you see things, how you react to things, your attitude and your effort, okay? These are 2 controllable things, and this is what you want to focus on. You don't want to focus on anything that you can't control. So you have 3 things that you've done well and 1 thing to improve upon, right? And what happens is when you write down what you did well and what you want to get better at, you build your own confidence. And like I said, this has everything to do with the subconscious mind. This has everything to do with the unseen, okay? Right? This goes back to flooding your mind with positive wavelengths so that there is no room for the negativity, right? That's what he talked about in like when he popped off in the chapter. He says, listen, I coach my athletes to flood out the negativity by flooding it with positivity, right? Or weed out the negativity, weed out the demons with positivity, right? Because you have to think. So you're gonna have thoughts anyway. They might as well be positive thoughts, right? And he uses many examples. He quotes Michael Jordan. He quotes Tiger Woods. He quotes winners, and they're all saying the same thing. It's how they see things. It's about their attitude, their mindset. Okay, so even on your worst days, like I was saying before, even on your worst days, you live like somebody on their greatness. Okay, even on your worst day, you live like somebody on their greatness. All right, that's from a Meek Mill song, right? And when it comes down to it, I've had days where I was implementing this principle, right, or this tool, and it was really, really hard for me to come up with something that was positive, right? But even on my worst day, ask yourself, wow, I think I really brushed my teeth really thoroughly this morning. Write it down, right? I hit the gym. You got to dig deep to find those positivities, those positive things. And then, once you find a few things that you did positively, whether shit was just hitting the fan left and right, at least you got up out of bed this morning. Did you wake up on time, right? This is a positive thing, because when you reinforce the positive things, then they become subconsciously, right, automatic, right? If you focus on negativity becomes, or the negative actions, the negative concepts become subconsciously automatic, right? Your subconscious doesn't know the difference between good and bad. It's just going to produce whatever you give it, right? So you have to consciously, with your conscious mind, okay, there's a difference between your conscious mind and your subconscious mind. You have to consciously speak positive affirmations, right? 3 things you did well, no matter how bad the day was, 3 things you did well, and then 1 thing to simply improve upon. And this is the concept. And we're gonna keep it simple from there, right? So again, write it down and reinforce it in your subconscious mind. The act of writing things down is actually the science proved that's very powerful, right? When you write things down. But again, I want to keep this video short. We're dealing with, in this episode, this is episode 9. We're dealing with, or episode 8. Sorry, this is episode 8. We're dealing with The Fearless Mind by Craig Manning. Okay, PhD. That's what that says. Okay, he's a doctor, right? And again, if you hear anything that I say that resonates with you in any way, again, I'm not trying to take credit for anybody's work. You can see exactly where I'm getting the cloth. Okay, this is special cloth. Check this one out. Okay, and we definitely want everybody to become a part of future discussions. So if you have any book recommendations, send it to infiniterepsinfo@gmail.com, and we're gonna keep dealing with the infinite expansion of the mind, right? There's countless. Again, we deal with nonfiction, right? We deal with real life stuff, but even if we're gonna go with like a book, like for example, The Alchemist, right? There's countless principles that you can discuss, and what we do here in Infinite Reps is we combat the negativity, right? We combat the narrative of gossip, right? And we deal with winning concepts, right? Again, all we're doing is discussing theory. All we're doing is discussing theory. It's up to you to actually apply this in your own life. But to deeply understand these concepts, this is just a little morsel. This is a mere morsel. This is a snack, okay? Go out and actually get some food. Get you a meal. Ingest this meal, right? Take it into your soul, into your body, and then make it a part of your life, right? This is The Fearless Mind by Craig Manning. Y'all be easy, all right?